With about 12 games left for every team in the NBA, Patrick and I are going to go down our awards ballot. MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Most Clutch Player, and Most Improved. The Sixth Man of the Year. I feel like that's become a forgotten reward.
It almost has.
Let's get into foul trouble.
Oh my gosh. This is just, we kind of had this hump that we had to get over that was like the dog days of the season. But I just feel like this final stretch run is just, there's so many different places in the standings that are so highly competitive. And then we've got all these awards that a couple of them are super competitive. I'm just so fucking jacked up, man.
I think this is the weirdest NBA awards season I can remember because I feel like a lot of the big ticket awards like MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year have kind of been locked up for a while now. And while a lot of the like low-lying awards like Most Improved and Sixth Man, which I feel like normally have runaway candidates, are actually like the most competitive this year that maybe they've ever been.
Yeah, I mean, I think a huge part of that is the 65 game limit, which is like, this is the first time we're dealing with something like that. But I totally agree with you. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the big ticket ones, and we'll move our way down. And that is the MVP,
the most valuable
player. So, I guess since I'm just going to assume you have
Nikola Jokic.
Okay, I have Nikola Jokic too. So Jokic is averaging 26.1 points, 12.3 rebounds, 9 assists per game. He's the NBA's single best elevator of his teammates, his on-off. So his differential between when he's off the court and on the court per 100 possessions, 17.7 points.
Is that good?
That's really, really, really good. Jokic is the win shares leader, the box plus minus leader, the box plus minus offensive leader, the box plus minus defensive leader. Fun Jokic stat, every single Denver metric skyrockets when he's on the court. Everyone shoots better at the rim. Everyone shoots better from mid-range. Everyone shoots better from three. They allow 10% less shots from their opponents at the rim when he's on the court. And so I think there's been a lot of hubbubaloo about Shea this year. Big thing with him versus Shea in terms of like how they affect the whole team. When Shea's on the court, you don't actually see any discernible difference in like the Thunder's shot diet, their shot accuracy from different locations on the court. Whereas with Denver, it's like 10% differences around the board with Jokic on the court. This is a fun quote that I think really accurately describes what it's like to play against this guy. Josh Hart this week on what the Knicks can do to slow down Nikola Jokic. Quote, pray.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you hit everything there pretty much. Nikola Jokic is just at this point the ultimate floor raiser in this league. But I really want to say the thing that I think takes Jokic for me way over the top when comparing him to a guy like Shea or even a guy like Luka, it's what he offers just inherently in his positional value on defense. Like Jokic, for a long time, it was discussed that like maybe he is a little bit of a negative on the defensive end. And I think we've all come to a point where just like, this man is a giant man, and the fact that he can be so effective while still being your anchor on the defensive end, and you really don't lose much at all. Like his clutch stats are amazing on both the offense and defensive sides of the ball. And he's, it's so hard to find a center in this league that can stay on the floor defensively. And when you don't even have to factor in that he's giving you this like ungodly offensive like raise just across the board, I think that's kind of where I settled into just like, this guy is the MVP. There's no more valuable player than Jokic, and that's not even factoring in that he's just better than everyone else as well.
Yeah, so I guess the only curiosity for me when it comes to the MVP is like, what is your criteria? Because I feel like the problem with this award most years is there's not only the debate about who should be the MVP, but there's also the debate about what is the criteria for MVP. Because I think this is one of those strange years where the most valuable, which is a weird word, and the best player are the same, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, I'm looking for raw offensive production. So obviously any of these three guys that we've mentioned offers like an insane amount of raw offensive production. So we're like Jokic, 26 points per game, Shea, 30 points per game, Luka leading the league in scoring, 34 points per game. From a scoring standpoint, like that's right there. Each one of these guys are very, very efficient. I mean, you look at Luka shooting 37% from three. That's something that we've been asking for,
especially with the type of threes he's taking.
Yeah, exactly. That's something we've been asking for him for a long time. And I think if he can sustain this, when we have no reason to assume that he's not going to be able to sustain this 3-point shooting, that is why he's in this MVP conversation in a way that he hasn't really been before. You know? And then, I mean, I think the other side of the coin is like defense. That's why so many bigs, I think, have the upper hand from an MVP perspective. You look at like throughout NBA history, centers have won this award 29 times compared to point guards and power forwards have won it 11 times. That's the next most positionally. Why do we see those two big positions right there in the top three positionally? It's because you can affect your team's defense so much more from a big man position than from guarding on the perimeter. Just because, especially now, offense is better than it has ever been. It's so much hard. Even if you are a amazing generational defender, like on the perimeter, like we've seen from like Marcus Smart had such an amazing season a couple of seasons ago. I think he deservingly won Defensive Player of the Year. But when it's nut crunching time, the great offensive players are just going to beat you. And so there's inherently less value there. Whereas like when you're a gigantic center, you are just going to deter people from coming near you. Like, look at what Joel Embiid was able to do this season. Look at what Giannis has done over the course of his prime. So that's what I'm really looking for out of an MVP. Is there anything that I didn't hit that you value?
No, I guess my criteria, I think I'm a little bit more straightforward in that I really weigh my vote more toward just the best player. I just kind of like to see this award go to who I think is the best player, so long as they're giving what I perceive full effort, which is why I think last season, I know there's been a lot of like, well, Jokic should have won last year too. I really don't think so, because that last month and a half from Jokic last season was a little like, are you trying to purposely not win the MVP? Like, what's going on? But this year, Jokic has been from game one to, we're at game like 70 something now, like full tilt. I mean, he's just clearly caught the best player in the world. And for me, like, I had Luka second and Shea third. I don't know if you did a second and third.
I did do a second and third. I had Shea second and Luka third. And I guess the one thing that I didn't mention is I do value team success.
Yeah.
And that's something that just like historically speaking, we have always counted into MVP voting. And that's whether like you look at the MVP winners from 60s, 70s when players were voting on it, or in the modern era where media is the ones that vote on the MVP award. We've always factored that in. And so like I did take a little away from Luka on that standpoint. Also, I just think Shea is a better defensive player than Luka, and he's had kind of a really special like deflections and steals year.
Leading steals for Shea. I think for me, personally, I'm going to stop valuing team success a little bit as much, because with how talented the league is, we haven't really seen the single star and okay cast lead a league. And like, we haven't seen like an 09 Cavs season in quite a long time. I guess we kind of saw that with Harden, but they had Chris Paul, I guess you see what I'm saying? Well, we don't really have these seasons where one player other than Jokic can really elevate a team like that. I guess maybe Embiid and Jokic are kind of the two guys, but even, because Jokic, they got like the 4 seed or the 5 seed the one year everybody was hurt, which is like, that's insane. And then with Embiid, he's had Maxey, he's had Harden, and Simmons was really good when he played there. But yeah, I guess, I don't know. I just think it's going to be really hard to gauge team success going forward when I think just as the league gets better and better and better, it's going to be really hard for these guys to single-handedly pronounce themselves on that. But I think that's clearly why we both picked Jokic, because he's the guy who does that.
Yeah. And my other thing is, like, I feel like it needs to be reminded and cemented that this is a regular season award.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm trying my hardest not to bring in anything from last postseason or what I forecast for this upcoming postseason, because, you know, who knows what happens? Like, that's why we have a Finals MVP award. But I'm pretty comfortable with Jokic winning this award. And so if Jokic does come through and win this, like, highly expected third MVP, there have been 8 players that have won 3 or more MVPs. Do you want to try and rattle off
Kareem,
who these guys are? Kareem, the most MVPs ever, was 6. LeBron has 4 MVPs. Michael Jordan, yep, number 2 with 5. Bird has 3. He won 3 in a row. Only player to do that. Magic Johnson, correct. Another 3. So you've got 5 of the 8 guys.
Timmy
has not won 3. Yeah, he only won 2.
I have 5 of the 8. God, is there like a Moses Malone or something?
Moses Malone is in there. He won 3. So you got 2 more. And I mean, I feel like these guys are pretty obvious, but you would think of them as almost a pair. And I would understand who
is it? I'm like blanking.
It's Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain.
I didn't even know they had MVP back then. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that was when the players were voting on them, and it was like Wilt had these like gaudy numbers, and everyone's like, Bill Russell is affecting winning in much more of a real way. So that's the company Jokic would put himself in. And I mean, you asked me just the other day, like, if Jokic wins the championship this year and then
beats Team USA,
is he like the greatest player ever? And I think this sets the table to have conversations like that. But
if he does that, he'll like, if he MVP, finals MVP, and beating Team USA, that would be the most impressive stretch of basketball any one man has ever played.
It would definitely be the best 24-month run of basketball
2
in history.
It would. I don't know, man. That would put Jokic way, like, if he wins the Olympics this summer, like, I don't know. We gotta start talking about this guy in a completely different
I'm
light.
willing to have any conversation. Where do you want to go next?
Let's go to Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year. Okay.
Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, so Victor's averaging 20.7 points, 10.4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.3 steals, 3.4 blocks, which is leading the league. He's only the 10th rookie since the year 2000 to even average 20 points. I didn't take a lot of notes because I just feel like the gap between Victor and most people are going to have Chet too. I had Chet second and Brandon Miller third.
Yeah, I'm right there.
Here's a big thing for me. This narrative that Chet should be rewarded for contributing to winning. So OKC is plus like 9.8 on the non-Chet minutes, and they're like plus 7-ish in the Chet minutes. OKC was going to be a good team no matter what. In fact, they statistically are a better team when Chet's on the bench. Just saying. So this narrative that like Chet is the one who's really contributing to winning when Victor's on off is plus 8.2 compared to Chet being a negative 2.4. Yeah, obviously that hurts Chet because his teammates are so good, and that helps Victor because teammates are so bad. But like, I don't know, man. I just don't see the candle that Chet even can hold to Victor at this point in this argument.
No, it's like, I mean, I know I did just say that team success needs to factor into the MVP award.
But not for Rookie of the Year.
First off, these are 2 very different awards.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, with the level that we've seen Victor reach, it would almost be like saying, I don't know, the fucking Hawks when they were really good a couple of years ago, saying like, oh, Al Horford needs to be in the conversation for MVP because he has a better record than fucking Dirk Nowitzki or whatever. It's just like, they're great players, but they're on different levels.
Yeah, I've noticed this weird counter trend, and thankfully it hasn't affected the award too much, where like a guy gets drafted to a really good team situation, and then they'll have better efficiency stats, and they'll be like, well, he's more efficient, he's winning. It's like, no shit, his team situation is 1,000 times better, and it just seems weird that people are so unable to gauge like how much more difficult Victor's role is than Chet's role. Like, and it was weird even in the beginning when I feel like there was more even playground. Like, people were still like, oh, well, it's not Chet's fault he doesn't have good teammates. Victor isn't playing with an NBA competent point guard. Like, this is one of the worst. I think, like, what's crazy is I think he's in a situation actively working against him, and despite that, he's shined so much.
Not to mention this dude plays like 30 minutes a game, like round numbers every single time. Like, he doesn't get the burn that I think a normal number one pick would. And just like, I don't know, like this dude is, we've never seen anything like it before. And Chet has had a full season in an NBA like training program, in an NBA locker room. I realize he didn't get to play last year, but that's not nothing. You know, we've seen time and time again high-level prospects that missed their first year being able to come into the NBA with a leg up on the new rookie class. We saw it in Embiid. We saw it in Simmons. We saw it in Blake. Like, that's just something that's real, and still Vic has been head and shoulders above Chet Holmgren. So, like, Chet, great season, buddy.
Amazing rookie season. Like, Chet's going to be an amazing player. Brandon Miller, who I had third, going to be freaking awesome. Love myself some Brandon Miller. I think Hornets fans should be pumped about him. But you know what? You guys all knew what was going on the last lottery. When those ping pong balls came up Spurs, you knew who was winning this award. And yeah, I mean, think about, we were so sure Scoot was going to be in this conversation. Let's not talk about Scoot. Which award do you want to go to from here?
Let's go to Defensive Player of the Year, because I want to bring up Victor Wembanyama in this conversation.
Yeah, so the betting market has this as a two-man race between Gobert and Wemby. Okay, I mean, I picked Gobert to win the award.
I also picked Gobert to win this award. But I think there's a case. But let's talk about Gobert, and then we'll go into Wemby after.
Okay, so I was kind of like, should this be a two-man race? Because we've actually talked of Wemby DPOY case a little bit on 2 pods now, and I just, for me, I think all the impact metrics are there. I still really value your ability to guard your own position one-on-one. But like with Gobert, there's all these stats, like, I compared him to Bam. I compared him to a lot of other centers, or even Giannis, where it's like when Gobert is in the game, teams are shooting way less shots at the rim. They're shooting way more mid-range shots. And, you know, as the season has gone on, those stats for Gobert have kind of leveled out, but they're still just a lot better than like all the other kind of big ticket defenders we know. Another big thing with Gobert, because I really do think defensive rebounding should be part of the equation when it comes to defense, because teams are getting way less putback and second chance points when Gobert is in the game. And like, that's why rebounding is a part of defense. Gobert is an excellent rebounder. So I kind of feel like this is maybe not a down year for DPOY, but it is a weird year because unlike Gobert's other DPOY seasons, like, he's insulated with such good defense.
Yeah.
So it's like, when Gobert is in the game, the Timberwolves are like the number one defense by a country mile. And when Gobert is not in the game, the Timberwolves are basically the number one defense, but they're just kind of equal to 2 and 3. So it's kind of weird because it's like the team is already really, really good, but he definitely has this like ceiling raising effect that is completely unique to him.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think Gobert should get so much credit for figuring it out. I'll spoil my best take of the week. Bill Simmons said on his Sunday podcast, why isn't Rudy Gobert in the conversation for most improved player? While I don't think that's like a realistic like award for Rudy to be in the conversation with, I think we need to really give Rudy his flowers for like a lot of the times in the NBA, especially with established stars like Rudy Gobert, when we see something doesn't work, when we see something not work, it never works. Like, players are not able to figure it out in a way that results in elite production. And Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, like, I really have to like give them a hand because they were able to figure out not only how to fix things without changing personnel for the most part, but they were able to figure it out in the most elite of ways. And
I do think a big part of that is Finch, though.
Totally.
It is like he figured out, okay, Rudy is not Jokic, but if I put him in a very specific situation, like he just does exactly what he needs to do at the rim, he was going to excel. And if we take Cat out of the star role and put him as like a spacer, he makes way more sense. And some of the pressure is off his shoulders, and he can just shoot and do his thing and roll the rim. And like, I really think like you should give credit to Rudy and Cat for just like figuring it out, but it's so much of Finch's work too at the same time. It's just like putting them in the right spots.
Yeah, Chris Finch is like a really, really, really good coach. And I picked him as coach of the year 2 years ago, and I was 1 year too early with that. But I do feel a little vindicated. But yeah, to your point, like teams are just shooting at the rim 5% less when Rudy Gobert is standing down there. Their defense has just been kind of the story of almost the league throughout the entire year. And part of end of the season awards for me is telling the story of the regular season. And it feels completely wrong not to award Rudy Gobert this honor. But I will say, Victor Wembanyama has shown me things that I have never, ever seen from any person that has ever walked planet Earth before. The Spurs are like, he is in the 100th percentile of defensive on-off. The Spurs are 11 points better with him on the court. The Spurs have no perimeter defenders. Everything's going right in there. I've seen Victor Wembanyama guard on the perimeter effectively. I've seen him guard on the interior effectively. One place where Rudy kind of struggles is in transition. That is a place where Victor Wembanyama is the elite of the elite from the center position, which is really nice to see. He's super effective in the half court. The last 2 weeks, the Spurs have made their way up to 13th defensively, just in that sample size, which is not easy to do, especially when a lot of teams are putting their foot on the gas pedal right now. I think he belongs there in the second spot.
Yeah, I think this is a really weak year for the DPOY race. I'll be honest, because the one thing I don't love about some of these regular season awards as they go to the postseason is like, okay, I've seen this guy get exposed in the playoffs before. Like, can we keep giving him a regular season award? But like this year, there just really isn't a lot of great candidates for DPOY. The only reason for me, like, there's just a big gap between Gobert and Wemby. And Gobert's been cooked before. I feel like this season he really hasn't been cooked quite as much. I think just Embiid, but like Embiid's obviously cooked everyone under the sun when he was playing.
He's the cooker. He cooks.
Embiid is the chef. Embiid was just the ultimate chef this year.
I mean, he's on a run like we've literally not seen since Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, like I know as much as all the flowers we gave Jokic, like he's kind of lucky Embiid didn't play the whole season. He was going to grab that award maybe. But I think for me, the only problem with Wemby that you don't see with Gobert is too many teams that have good players at the big man position, their strategy on offense becomes just go straight at him. And I think, again, like you have to be able to guard your own position in isolation better than what he did this season for me to consider you a DPOY.
Yeah. I hear you. And I'm with you. I think it's a little masked how like his effectiveness against centers because of the personnel around him. It's definitely doing him no favors.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's really interesting what you say about like there aren't really great candidates for this award this year. I think we both picked Bam.
Yeah, and I went through all of Bam's things, and it's like,
well, the biggest thing for me is
not a big case there yet.
You just look at the Heat's fourth quarter stats. I mean, we've talked all year about how bad the Suns' fourth quarter stats have been, and they're like just next level bad. But the Heat are supposed to be this like team that is just always ready to turn it on. They're all about winning, blah, blah, blah. They have been absolutely awful in the fourth quarter. And that's when I'm looking for a guy like Bam to like
make that
step up.
That block on Tatum like he did in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I know. Bam, I love you, man, but I didn't see the case this year.
And then Anthony Davis is the other guy whose I think name was bantied about a lot this season. And like, I'm a huge AD fan.
Yeah, AD's eye test and his stats are very mismatched this year. When I watch Laker games, AD is out there and he's incredible. And then under the hood, the stats are just like, they're actually not that good on defense when AD's out there, which is kind of the whole Lakers team. But like, it's not the guy we saw in the playoffs last year completely dismantled two different teams by himself.
No. And it's been kind of like a tale of two stories with the Lakers. Like the Lakers, when they were good in the beginning of the season, it was all led by their defense. And I think it was kind of spearheaded by just like LeBron's supercomputer brain and Anthony Davis's skills. But then they've been, I think...
But it's weird. Then they were
a lot better
It was like they were good as a defense team, then they were really bad as a defense team,
and
now they're like, but now they're like kind of good as an offense team.
They're kind of good as
exactly.
They've
had a weird season.
They've completely flipped the script, but Rudy's the choice.
Yep. Okay, so we are 3 for 3 on the Sin candidates. I think this is where we might defer now on these other awards because those were at the top we were talking about the big ticket ones are kind of seem like they're decided. So where do you want to go from here? Do you want to go to coach? Do you want to go to most improved? Do you want to go to six man?
I've got most improved up,
okay.
And I feel like it's kind of a crapshoot here. Where did you go?
Okay, so I wanted to just see what the betting market has. So the betting market is Maxey and Kobe White. Dude, Kobe White, I'll be honest, man. I don't see the case. So Kobe White's usage has gone up by 6%. His minutes are up by 13. Statistically, there's nothing about Kobe White this year that's improved other than his usage. Like,
his points per game went up by 10
because of minutes and usage. Totally. But like his shooting at the rim, not a career high. His shooting from mid range, not a career high. His shooting from free throw, not a career high. Like 3-point career high by like 1%. Like turnover rate, kind of the same as it's like. Basically, every Kobe White rate stat is completely unchanged from his previous seasons. And in fact, this year, he's not at his career high in almost any of them. So I ask how Kobe White has improved. What has he improved at other than playing more?
I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
So let's go to another guy that I could not believe was on the most improved betting favorites, which is Tyrese Maxey. I love Tyrese Maxey.
Thank you, James.
Last season, Tyrese Maxey was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey has always been good. Did he improve as a passer in limiting his turnovers this year? Yeah. And did
a little bit.
And the fact that he's maintained his averages while upping his usage, that is impressive. That is an improvement, right? Playing more minutes and upping your usage while maintaining your percentages.
But he didn't maintain his percentages.
They actually dipped a tiny bit.
He's shooting like 0.4% worse field goal percentage. He shot 43% from three last year, shooting 37% this year. Of course, upped attempts, but he's shooting lower percentages across the board.
I think he's the same guy. I think the percentages, obviously, you got to factor in the shot diet he has now without Harden, but like he's the same guy.
Yeah. He's not most improved.
So I went through a lot of players, which is what prompted me to tweet, can a number one pick actually be eligible for this award? As long as it's not from rookie year to sophomore year. Mm-hmm. Okay. I have Anthony Edwards.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So Ant is 100% in usage rate. This is his most usage rate by far. His points per shot attempt is up by 3, up to 117.2. His assist percentage is up 4%. His shooting at the rim is up 6%. His mid-range shooting is at a career high. His three-point shooting is at a career high. His free throw percentage is up nearly 8%, while also drawing a career high in rate of fouls drawn. Defensively, he's at his lowest foul rate. And has basically improved in every single facet of the sport while upping his usage. This is like the slam dunk. This guy has discernible things he improved at while doing more. I don't know. Like, the more I think about it, is he kind of like a runaway most improved?
I like that. I honestly didn't look that deep into Ant, and you have a lot of compelling stats there. The guy that I kind of settled on as my guy for this award, and he may or may not get to the games played threshold. He's at 63 games right now, and he would need to play 2 more games, which is not a slam dunk case. But my guy was Alperen Sengun. I think Alperen Sengun has raised his, role on the team that on the Rockets in a real way. He is now their number 1 guy. I had him in the All-Star game, but he's upped his points per game by 6, which is real. He's upped his percentages have regressed a little bit, but
he's finally become the main on-ball
exactly.
Main guy. Yeah.
He's the hub of their offense in a way that we've never seen before. He's upped his assists per. But my favorite stat of Sengun, what was the big question about Sengun? Kind of just like in general, him as a prospect. It was, can this guy be a defensive anchor? And the Rockets have been one of the better defensive teams all year. And his personal defensive rating has dropped 6 points from last year, which with just like being a more competitive team, being more of a featured player, I think is like really something to write home about. I think he has a really good candidacy for this award, but I don't know if he'll play 2 more games. He might not. It really depends. I love the Anthony Edwards pick.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because I feel like before the season, like heading into Team USA basketball last summer, everyone was like, this is the Anthony Edwards giant leap season. And I was like, I don't see it. He's not a great passer. And like, I still don't think Ant's like a great passer, but like, it's just like, for me, most improved when this guy's like literally improved at every single facet of the game is just like, okay, I don't really know who else has improved as much. Because even like Jalen Johnson is another guy I've seen. And like, you're going from like 13 minutes to like 30s in minutes. But then all of these little, like, your rim percentage is the same. Your mid-range shooting is the same. Your 3-point's the same. Your free throw's the same. Your foul rate's the same. It's like all these basketball players, I feel like people really underrate, like, or fans kind of underrate. Like, I don't know how much these guys really change that much a couple years into their careers as much as their team situation changes.
Yeah, is it like the most opportunity change award or is it the most improved award?
Whereas, like, unironically, free throw percentage to me is actually a really good indicator of improvement of shooting because we know, like, coming into the NBA, like, the best predictor of your 3-point potential is your free throw percentage. So when a guy like Ant is able to go up almost 10% on his free throws, and that's coupled with better shooting in the mid-range, coupled with better shooting from 3-point, that is literally an indicator that this guy has improved as a jump shooter. Whereas, like, with a Maxey or a Kobe White, there's no indicator that they're actually discernibly better jump shooters this year than they were in any previous year.
Yeah. The one other guy that I looked into was Jonathan Kuminga, which
good choice.
I think that ends up being a story of, yes, increased opportunity, but also, like, you look at his on-off, especially his defensive on-off, and it's so good. But to me, I'm like, well, he was replacing Andrew Wiggins on the court a lot of those times. And it's just like, you're replacing this guy that is just not engaged whatsoever. I was really optimistic about this stretch run for the Warriors, and it's like kind of fallen on deaf ears. They were begging for someone for so much of this season to step up from a forward big position. And I think Jonathan Kuminga did step up in ways, but it just was not as impactful as I think a guy like Ant, obviously, or even a guy like Sengun, who, like, I think really established themselves as like, I'm a player in this league. I am like a second contract max kind of guy. But yeah. So I love that Anthony Edwards pick. I mean, I'll give it to Alpi if he plays those 2 more games.
Alpi's a very deserving player too.
But
I don't have the stats, but I feel like Jalen Green should also be maybe in the conversation too.
It almost feels like this little run from him is a little too late though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a sustained run over the course of the season. It's just hot at the right time kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird with the Rockets, just like the way they play now that Alperen Sengun is out, it's very conducive to guys like Jalen Green and Amen Thompson because they're just, Jabari Smith Jr. is playing center a lot of the times.
If you're a Rockets fan, though, you have to be ecstatic that this team is winning, being led by Jalen Green. Because ultimately, as good as Sengun is, like, I think every Rockets fan deep down is like, we really want Jalen Green to kind of like retake the throne and just be the ultra alpha on this team in an efficient way. Because I think like that's when this Rockets team is like, they have a thunder like jump.
Yeah. I mean, if you have guys like jockeying for the position of best prospect, and it's not because the guys are not meeting expectations, what can you want more from a young team? And they're really having like a Suns bubble moment right now. Like, as weird as that can be in the middle of the season, they're only one game back from the Warriors, and
I told you guys the Warriors are missing the playoffs.
They play a game.
The guarantee.
That's true.
Okay, do you want to go to 6-man or do you want to go to coach?
6-man.
Okay,
6-man. I'm just going down in the order I got it.
Okay, so Malik Monk is the heavy favorite on betting websites. Do you have Malik Monk?
No.
I don't either. I don't understand that. So the Kings are getting outscored when Monk's on the court, and their defense, which is normally not good, just gets really bad whenever Malik Monk's on the court. I mean, Monk is like fitting the typical mold of the 6-man, but I feel like the like uplifting, highlight generating guard mold of 6-man is kind of very past era. So I had Naz Reid.
I did too.
So Naz Reid is averaging 13.
I love this episode.
It's just like
it's Wolves Central in this episode. We've got so many Wolves winning awards, but 13 points a game, 5 rebounds, 1.2 assists, like fits in with all the different lineups that the Wolves want to put him in. When Naz Reid is on the court, the Wolves defense is freaking amazing.
Better.
It's even better than their normal lineups.
The 2-man pairing of Naz Reid and Gobert is the best big man
it's like a
combo
massive
they have.
Outlier, regardless of who the perimeter players are, in terms of just that 2-man pairing leads to a defense that's just otherworldly good statistically.
98th percentile of 2-man combos, Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert. And then you're like, okay, what does it look like with Cat? Oh, it's just in the 91st percentile. And you think of Naz Reid as this offensive specialist, and really where it gains all of its ground is on the defensive end. It's crazy that they've been able to get 3 big men that just work so well together. Like, the roster construction of this Wolves team is so unique. It is so cool. It is so effective.
Great. Yeah, I just think Naz is just like the way he's able to just slot into any Timberwolves lineup and just make it better. Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, like the 6-man is the guy that's like, when you need that shake up, he comes in and like really kind of revs the game up for you. And like, no one's doing that right now like this guy is on,
And I just really appreciate the ability to consistently, sustain their style of play and their identity. And a lot of times the 6-man will come in and kind of shake it up. Like, there was a lot of talk of Russell Westbrook being in the conversation. And like his whole thing, which I don't think that was real, but the case of it was kind of like Russell Westbrook comes in and he like changes the mold and he makes it different. Well, Naz Reid comes in and all of the Wolves players can play the exact same way, and it's going to be just as effective, which I think is more valuable.
Yeah, I do too. Like, honestly, like that's why I just don't understand the Malik Monk being the heavy favorite. Like, he's averaging 2 more points, and they get worse when he's on the court. Naz Reid is averaging 2 less points, and they just get way better, or they stay as a dominant team.
Yeah, I mean, look, Malik Monk is a fucking bucket.
Yeah, Malik Monk is awesome. No, he's awesome. I don't want to take away from Malik Monk, but I think me and you both value more like how are you impacting winning, and I just. Kind of just feels like Naz Reid impacts winning a bit more. And I guess that kind of goes back to what you said with the MVP is a little big man bias. But look, inherently basketball is a tall man sport.
Yeah.
It always has been. Like the only era where it wasn't, the 2010s, was really because there was just a huge drought of good big men for a long time.
Yeah. That's the other. And also it kind of is tough for perimeter players in the sense that it's so much easier to like find metrics that really explain big man effectiveness on defense and it's pretty impossible to do that on the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like when you got a guy like Keon Ellis playing over you, it's like, you're not the perfect player. Like, which player between Malik Monk and Naz Reid do you think would be starting on more of the 29 other teams? That
Naz Reid for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if that's a question that's asked very much, but I think it's like kind of worth asking in the 6 Man of the Year award race.
All right, Coach of the Year.
Coach of the Year. This is a tough one.
I'm just gonna say it straight up. I don't want to say Coach of the Year shouldn't be an award, but like
This is a hot take.
But like, how can anyone in the media or me and you, like, how can I tell you who's the Coach of the Year? You know what I mean? Like,
I hear you.
I'm not in the Orlando Magic practice facility. I'm not in the like Timberwolves practice facility. Like, I'm not in their huddle. Like yes, I can look at like timeout usage. You know what I mean? Like, I can look at, are they scoring out of their timeouts? Which, like, now that I've actually gone through that data, I don't even know if that's a good metric to decide if someone's a good coach or not. Like, I don't know. I guess like that's kind of my point, is like, how are any of us supposed to decide who actually was the best coach? And like, I know I've dogged on him a lot this year, but like, kind of like, if Popovich was the best coach circa like 2010 through 2015, shouldn't he just be Coach of the Year every year? Like, shouldn't Spoelstra, maybe not this year, but like for a lot of those years, just have been Coach of the Year every year? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like,
you can kind of make an argument for any of these people. Like, you want me to make an argument for Pop this year? Like, just
Please
look
don't.
at Victor. Look at Victor Wembanyama. He's gotten so much better. He's being utilized so much better. He's improved.
no more Pop praise, Patrick. Who did you end up picking?
I guess I ended up picking Mark Dagnall.
Okay,
today.
I had him third.
But I was in between Mosley and Dagnall.
Okay, I had Mosley second.
Who did you pick?
Thibodeau.
Oh, I mean, okay. Yeah,
I'll make my case.
I see it. My thing about these two teams is like, this is a Vegas ass award. Like, in my opinion, the only like real thing that I can bring to this award is like, what were your over-unders like? How are you performing right now? And both the Thunder and the Magic are currently 4.5 games over what they were expected to win. Personally, I thought that the Magic were not going to be this team or anywhere near it. I think, you know what? I'm talking myself into Jamal Mosley again. Like, it's so hard to win without like overwhelming star scoring, which is not something the Magic have had this year. It's all been structured around, like, all of their winning has been built on the base of their defense, which I do think coaching has a lot to do with, like we said with Chris Finch. And I think Jamal Mosley has been, it seems like he's got his guys really playing hard for him. It was, the Magic story this year has been a little like, we didn't know what to make of it earlier or in the season. We didn't know if it was going to be something that's sustained, and it fell off a little bit, but they have like powered back.
Yeah.
And they have a real chance to make the 3 seed. And I think that's kind of where I fall on it, is like, the Thunder have been so much better than I expected. But if you told me they did that before the season started, I'd be like, okay, like, I'm not super shocked. Like, they have an MVP candidate, but the Magic have just been so much better than I thought. So I think if the Magic make the 3 seed, I'll give it to Jamal Mosley. If not, I'm giving it to Mark Dagnall. Give me the Tibbs case.
Okay, here's my issue with Coach of the Year, going back to should we even be allowed to talk about it? So much of Coach of the Year, it almost always goes to the team we think overperformed, right?
Yeah.
So Mosley's on his 3rd year coaching Orlando. Did some digging. Did you know that the last 2 seasons, the Orlando Magic were the most freakishly over-injured team the 2 years before this?
I did not.
So has their poor performance the last 2 years clouded how good this team actually was? Question mark?
Potentially.
Also, again, I don't know if the stat matters. The Magic are dead last by like a huge dead being the big word in points out of timeouts. Efficiency. And Dagnall, the Thunder have just been like super healthy all year. I was one of the people who was like, I think the Thunder are going to be a top 4 seed this year. So I'm kind of like, they're doing what I expected. So for me, the difference between Tibbs and these guys is, again, I'm not in the locker room with them, but the Knicks have just been like a walking hospital bill, and they're right there with the Magic. Mosley, I had second. I think it's really impressive the Magic are number 2 on defense without a real traditional big man. Speaking of Orlando's injuries, it's been Fultz and it's been Carter have been their 2 guys who have missed a lot of games. But again, Wendell's not even that big. I think it's impressive that this team's able to do what they're doing with all the shooting issues they do have. But I think for me, like Thibodeau, like so many Knicks have missed so many games, and when Thibodeau's actually given his arsenal, they've literally been unstoppable. 15-2 with OG Anunoby.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thing is just, I don't know, kind of feels like to me when you give all these guys their super healthy teams, Tibbs rolls out the best, and he's not the one with the MVP candidate. So I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
But I don't think Dagnall's a bad pick because, again, I'm not in the locker room. I just feel like it's, the more I think about this award, the more goofy I think it is that the media decides
The impressive thing about Dagnall is, I think, when you look at the Thunder's like 4 through 12 guys, it was such a, who knows who like the best players are in that group. There's a lot of talented guys, and Dagnall, for the most part, has been able to press the right buttons consistently throughout this year, which has resulted in the record that they have.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I don't like about this award too is like, let's rewind to like December. Like, who would another favorite be? Like, I'd say Nick Nurse. Mm-hmm. Like, has Nick Nurse become a worse coach because Joel Embiid got hurt? I don't think so.
No.
So it's like, I don't know. It just seems like we base these guys completely off things that are kind of unrelated to
a narrative
what
award.
they do. Yeah,
it's
I don't know. I just
it's a narrative
I kind of hate coach. I think we need to get rid of coach of the year.
I don't know. With the Nick Nurse thing, it's like you kind of can't give it to him if you're not going to give it to Tibbs, because it's like they both have had really tough
injuries
looks, and Tibbs was able to make it work in a better way. But also, it's like, when do your injuries fall on your schedule?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm anti-coach of the year. I don't want to vote on coach of the year. I don't think it should exist. No coach is deserving of coach of the year.
They should award coach of the year after the playoffs.
Yeah. They actually they should. They really should, because that's when you see the real adjustments and everything, like in the scheme. I'm with you. Good take.
There we go. Best take of the week, Patrick Stewart.
All right, and obviously the most important award of all time.
The most important.
The clutch player of the year.
Damn, this is a hard award.
Okay, so
Anthony Edwards.
No, so the reason this is a weird one, other than no precedent, is these guys do not play an equal amount of clutch games. Jokic has played 33 games. Well, also, every website that does stats defines clutch differently. Some websites, 5-point game within 5 minutes. The NBA website, games that ended in a 3-point margin in the last 2 minutes. Also, like the 5-minute one is weird because that means like, okay, what if you build a 7-point lead with 3 minutes left and then drop back down to a 3-point lead? Like, was it then not clutch time? It is clutch time.
I believe only the minutes where it's within that margin are included in your stats.
Exactly. So it's really kind of blah.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'm gonna do something. My 4 candidates, because of games played, we talked about one guy who didn't make my short list who would have if he played a couple more clutch games, was Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie Irving's been insane in the clutch. But this is the problem with this award. You know who else has been great in the clutch? Luka Doncic. You know who's been great in the clutch? Jamal Murray. You know who else has been great in the clutch? Nikola Jokic. Like, a lot of the times you're just going to see these pairings of the 2 stars on these teams, and they have to discern between who's the most clutch. I just chose Luka because the Mavs have actually just been kind of disgustingly unstoppable in the clutch this year. They have like 100. Luka's like 150 offensive rating and like 100 defensive rating in the clutch.
Yeah,
and well, I kind of wanted to commemorate this Luka season.
I don't know where you got those from NBA.com. I had Luka with 124 offensive rating and 109 defensive rating, which is still really great.
Good. I forget which website mine. Well, maybe my clutch parameters were different. I don't know.
I was just going on the NBA website, the NBA's award. I'm going with your fucking clutch stats.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, you know what? Let me commemorate this Luka season. I just feel like he's been awesome in the clutch. 18-7 is the fewest sample size with some of these guys, because Shea's 20-11, Jokic 22-11. But I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
So fuck that Luka noise. I'm not just giving Luka an award for no reason. I would have given it to Kyrie if he was eligible, because he has just been absolutely sick. In his 16 games in clutch time this year, he's 13-3, which that number falls off without him a little bit. But he's shooting 46% from three, shooting 58% from the field. Like, Kyrie needs some shout outs. You would have won this award. My pick for this before the season was actually Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is kind of in a tough place here. He has to play every single game for the rest of the season to qualify for this award, which I don't know if he's going to end up doing, but he's got a 39 plus 39 net rating in the clutch right now.
Yeah, so there's 17-7 in Jamal Murray games that he played in the clutch. Do you have the same amount of games played?
I do.
I think I sourced my things from a bunch of different websites, and now I have this like mess of data.
But yeah, 134 offensive rating, 95 defensive rating. It's a little bit better than Jokic's, just because he's honestly played less games, and when Murray plays, he plays with Jokic. So that's a little delineator right there. But 40% from three, 56% from the field. Jamal has been really, really crazy good. A lot of people, like Steph, is high up on the betting favorites. But I am not giving the clutch player of the year to a guy whose clutch record is 19-18.
Yeah, no, like okay. Here's my problem with this award too, because I think if I really were to dig through the data and film study, like, I don't know how many games I've watched. Like, there was a Timberwolves game last week that we talked about in our group chat where the Wolves are up by like 3 points or 4 points like late in the fourth quarter, and I don't know if it's like clutch time per se. Maybe it's like 6 minutes left, 7 minutes left, but like Jokic and Porter enter the game, and the game is like over, and like, I don't know if that's statistically clutch time, but in terms of just like the guy who, when it's a close game, I think is always going to come through, it's Jokic. So I guess like last year, Fox kind of uniquely had a lot of late game heroics, but why isn't the MVP going to just win this award most years?
I mean, because I think we're looking at clutch time, and a lot of the time the MVP is on a team that is not playing very much in the clutch. Let me tell you the stat that I think most aided me in making my decision with this. And Cleaning the Glass has a win differential stat. What that means, by their definition, it's what's the difference between the number of games the team has won and what would be expected based on their efficiency differential. The top three teams for this stat this year has been the Sacramento Kings, who do not have a clear candidate. Looked at De'Aaron Fox, just not there, more of a team thing. Yeah, it could go back to back. Number 2 was Denver. The 3.6 more wins than would be expected by their differential. So I ended up going with Jokic for this, just to kind of hedge my bets on whether Jamal Murray plays enough games or not. He's been super awesome. 127 offensive rating, 99 defensive rating. He is the anchor of the defense. That is absolutely fucking sick, being able to do that. And then he shoot 38% from three, 57% from the field. Really, really good. So I would get... Also, Dame has been unbelievable in clutch time as well.
Dame time.
Yeah, 127 offensive rating, 99 defensive rating. He doesn't have as much to do with that defensive rating, which is why I leaned Jokic there. But I mean, and Dame's efficiency isn't quite the same. It's not even close to the same. 32% from three in clutch time this year, 44% from the field. So yeah, I'm going tiers. If Murray makes it to the game's threshold, I'm giving it to Murray. Congrats, man. You get this instead of your fucking all-star selection. If he doesn't make it, Jokic, like, that is the best clutch time action of the last 35 years. Yep. So you guys get it. And then if neither one of those guys win it, Dame, There you go. Legacy award. He's 22-11 in clutch games.
It should
this
be
year.
the Dame Time Award.
It should could
literally
be named the Dame
Time
Time Award. That's where I landed. Sorry, Bulls fans.
You know, for Jokic, when he wins the award, he had that crazy like near half court buzzer beater versus the Warriors. That's like a cool visual to play as he walks up and virtually accepts the award from his stable in Serbia.
Yeah,
I'm still rolling with Luka. Luka's been really good in the clutch.
He has been.
He's been amazing. The Mavs are really good in clutch games too.
Yeah.
Taking care of your health isn't easy, but it should at least be simple. That's why for the last year, I've been drinking AG1 every single day, no exceptions. It's just one scoop mixed in water once a day, every day, and it makes me feel strong and ready to take on my day. That's because each serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more. It's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. AG1 has been really helpful for me because lately I've been on a lower calorie, super high protein diet and I need to still get my vitamins and minerals, and AG1 makes that really, really easy for me. I just take it every day in the morning and my whole day is just ahead of me and I feel great throughout the day. If there's one product I'd recommend to elevate your health, it's AG1, and that's why I've partnered with them for so long. So if you want to take ownership of your health, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/foultrouble. That's drinkag1.com/foultrouble. Check it out. All right, best take, worst take. Every Monday, Patrick and I bring the best take and the worst take of the week. At the end of the month, we crown the worst take of the month, and at the end of the season, we will crown the worst take of the season. Patrick, you already said your best take.
My best take, it was Bill Simmons. Why can't Rudy Gobert be most improved player? I don't think he's not going to win it. He's not in the discussion, but I like the thought process behind it. He improved in non-tangible ways, in winning ways that elevated his team to true contender status.
Okay, my best take goes to Josh Hart. Said, quote, talking about Mikal Bridges, a college teammate of his, "It's like the SpongeBob meme when Squidward is looking out the windows and he sees SpongeBob and Patrick having fun. Mikal is Squidward." So Mikal plays from Brooklyn, obviously. Josh Hart and
Dante
Brunson play in
all of
New
his
York,
college
all
buddies.
of his college buddies. And Mikal would be an awesome Knick. I don't know if he'd start over OG given this Knicks team, but yeah, I mean, I guess they really don't need Mikal, but it's just kind of a funny. So I had 4 people for worst take.
Damn.
We're supposed to only bring one. So both of us had this worst take from Kendrick Perkins, who said, "I'm not taking any point guard over Jalen Brunson."
It's so unserious. It's just not. It's not true. I don't know if there's like he's being paid to say this because it's a New York market, but like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander exists
Luka
in this
Doncic
world.
exists.
He did kind of hedge his bets against Luka. He was like, Luka's a point forward. Like, I'm not including him in this conversation.
All right, well, Shai exists.
But Steph
exists.
You wouldn't rather have Steph Curry than Jalen Brunson? I'm sorry, you're lying to
You're
my
lying
face.
to yourself. And we love you, Jalen Brunson. So here are my 3 other ones. I'm going to get them out of the way in order. So I had to put this one. I had to be humble. My Heat got humbled by the Pelicans. Remember, we highlighted this a couple weeks ago if you've been listening to the pod. Heat Pels, big game for the Pels because the Heat were talking hella shit, and the Pels ran us out of the building. So worst take is going to go to Jimmy Butler, who said, quote, "We'll beat them next time too. We're just the better team." Now, shout out to Jimmy. He said, quote, "We're still the better team after they destroyed us." So,
double down.
I love you, Jimmy Butler, but I gotta be unbiased. I gotta give you worst take. All right, but this is like the LeBron James Miami Heat worst take special. Worst take, Udonis Haslem.
Ooh.
Quote, "Chris Bosh was more important than LeBron James due to Bosh's ability to space the floor." What the fuck?
No.
Dude,
no.
I love Chris Bosh. He's one of my all-time favorites. I'll always be there to defend how good Bosh was. One of the best pick-and-roll defenders I have ever seen. Really good player. So games 6 and 7 of the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals, Chris Bosh didn't play, and yes, we still won. Because LeBron James scored 45 and 31 points to lead the Heat to the finals. Okay, I know we're supposed to only bring one worst take, but this one came up last night. This was all over Twitter. I think this might be the worst one. This made Skip Bayless do a double take and have to defend LeBron James. Quote, Keyshawn Johnson, "I've never seen LeBron James posterize anybody."
He said that?
He said that.
Keyshawn Johnson?
Yes.
What?
And Skip Bayless literally was like, my God, what did I just hear?
Keyshawn Johnson is on the radio in LA. What is going on?
Yeah, why is he telling that to Skip Bayless?
It's just a bald-faced lie.
That was just like the secret phrase that like activated Skip Bayless' like
LeBron apologist.
Yeah.
So I feel like between the Perkins one and the 3 that I brought, we have some great candidates.
Yeah.
I know we have too many candidates, but I couldn't pick. These were all horrible takes.
For me, the 2 that stand above is the Keyshawn Johnson one and the Kendrick Perkins one. But you could like legitimately make a case that Jalen Brunson is the. I mean, I
Is
guess
playing that well.
I wouldn't buy it, but you could try and make a basketball case for that.
But I wish you heard the full Keyshawn quote because he's like, he doesn't glide through the air like Michael does. Like, I've never seen him posterize anybody like Clyde Drexler.
James Worthy literally said earlier this season that LeBron's poster on Paul George was the greatest dunk of all time. I got to give it to Keyshawn.
Yeah, Keyshawn Johnson with the worst take.
That's crazy,
So this is our last Monday. So, Max, can you run us through the other worst takes of the week this month?
Yes. So the other worst take options that we have here are Udonis Haslem saying Russ was at one point the best in the world.
No, that's a bad one.
Gilbert Arenas saying, you go to college to learn defense. What college do Europeans go to? Sort of doesn't really make any sense at all and also is wrong. And then Skip Bayless saying, I still have LeBron 9th on my top 10 list.
Oh my God, this was a brutal month for takes.
Tough.
Okay, to me, it's between Skip and Gilbert.
Yeah, what was the first one?
The first one was UD saying Russ was at one point the best in the world.
That's pretty bad. But
It's really bad, but Russ was an MVP, so I'll let it slide.
Yeah. I will let it slide as well. Okay, so the Gilbert Arenas one was him saying that
We need to get rid
Europeans
of
should be banned
Europeans.
from the NBA if
Yeah.
they want to improve defense league-wide. Man, that is so bad.
That
but
is
saying LeBron
so
James
bad.
is 9th? What is this LeBron slander? Chris Bosh was more important than LeBron James? I'm sorry, like LeBron James...
How are you coming to grips with the fact that Udonis Haslem,
as a regular on the worst take?
is like a real hoopers know kind of guy?
Bro.
Well, okay, but it's like
He's
oddly
jealous.
not. It's oddly a not real hoopers know kind of guy because a real hoopers know kind of guy would never give credit to Chris Bosh, like ever.
That's true.
They'd be like soft, shooting big man. He's a puss.
But I feel like real hoopers guys are also Russell Westbrook guys too.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
that's true.
I mean,
I
Gilbert
guess-
Arenas.
Yeah, I think man, skip the 9th.
I know, but that is a all-time list is so subjective.
But 9th, that'd be like Michael Jordan. He did retire early. I got him 12th.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that is rough. That's gonna be a take coming up once these like Gen Zers get microphones in their face. They're gonna be like,
I've got Jordan 12th.
Yeah, like he had no left hand.
Well, okay. Okay, so let's decide. I have to bring something up about this, but let's decide the worst take. Is it going to be Gilbert or Skip? I think it's going to be Gilbert, right?
I feel that the Gilbert Arenas take
It's so
is
flagrantly bad.
so flagrantly bad, and it's just like nonsense.
Yeah.
It's
Europeans are some of the best defenders in the league.
yeah.
Well, that's what's funny. I don't know if you guys remember the full quote. He's like, "Who are the best defenders? Gobert, Giannis," and it's like, dude, you just named
Wemby.
like a ton of the last couple defensive player of the year. It's like they're all Europeans.
Yeah,
Other
and
than
it's like
Jaren.
you can talk about like perimeter defense, but it's just like I don't know.
Bro, our American male insecurity is getting really hit hard by the fact that like I don't know, man. Europeans are kind of shitting on us lately in basketball.
I think it's just the Luka effect. I think the old heads just like really don't like the Luka.
Yeah, I feel like Luka
Yeah.
broke a lot of people's brains.
Yeah.
Well, it's also because people don't like James Harden, and honestly, Luka plays on offense a fuck ton like James Harden.
True.
And I mean, Luka's complaining is awful to watch.
Yeah.
Like that is such a bad look. And I mean, yeah, Luka doesn't play defense very well either. Like, you guys want to hear more of why people don't like Luka?
No, I love your son. I love these Suns fan tears.
Hey. Who's won more playoff series recently? The Phoenix Suns.
What about head-to-head?
Head-to-head. It's just one. One more game. One more playoff game. Take it.
Hey, don't talk about your parents like that. Anyway. Okay. It's really funny that we bring up like the really bad takes like Gen A and Gen Z might have in the future about Michael Jordan, because one thing that's really interesting is if you were to go to 90s message boards and people from the 80s, none of them have Kareem in their top 5.
Really?
Because the narrative in the 80s was that Kareem hadn't won anything until Magic came to LA. He hadn't won anything with the Lakers. So apparently, like, over the generations, as LeBron, this is the theory, is like as us LeBron fans have kind of respected longevity as an argument more and more and more,
we've accepted
it's propped it up
more.
Kareem's case a bit more over time, because apparently a lot of the prevailing opinion in the 80s was like Kareem cannot be anywhere near the top 3 because Magic was the driving force of those Laker teams, which I think is like kind of interesting, because like if Magic's top 10 and Kareem's top 10, like I mean, I wasn't there, so
yeah.
I do think it is interesting how like we're gonna see these all-time lists shift, even though these guys will have not played the entire time that they're shifting.
Yeah, I mean, not to get like super political, but I think that also has something to do with it, which like the 80s and 90s were like a much more conservative time, especially with like white males in America, and there was no like bigger social justice warrior than Kareem. You see that again with LeBron, when like I think social justice like took more of a standpoint, and like all of that factors into like who these talking heads are saying like historically. And then you look at the next generation, a lot of like Gen Z white males are making a huge like pushback towards more conservative values, which like for better or worse, like that's for you to decide. But I think like we might see that again. Like there's going to be a huge pushback on guys like LeBron. There's going to be a huge pushback on guys like Kareem for those very reasons.
Yeah, I feel like that's the weird thing that's going to happen with LeBron's legacy, is because he is still playing and he's still playing at such a high level, you are going to run into a lot of basketball fans who are like, I started watching when I was like 13 and LeBron was, 38 years old, so it's like, yeah, he was good, but I never really saw him.
He was so overrated.
I never really saw him do much, but it's because LeBron just doesn't fucking stop playing.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the same thing with Kareem,
Yeah.
Like people that were huge basketball fans in like the late 80s that caught the last couple championships from Kareem didn't see him like literally
in his prime
wipe out the league in the early 70s when he was with
dunking
the Bucks.
banned in college.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. No, I know it is really interesting, like what's going to happen with Kareem, and I think also part of that is because Magic Johnson has like made an utter fool of himself over the last like 10 years, and it's not just like the stupid tweets or being like the worst president in like the history of like basketball. It's also like, Magic Johnson has signed so many random things that it's like completely devalued his signature. It's like even small things like that. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like if you're like, oh, I want to get Michael Jordan's signature, it's like $3,000. Oh, I want to get Magic's, it's like $20. It's like even small things like that in your head make you feel like he's devalued.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue if we're talking about like trends of like all-time players, I would think Magic is going to have like a huge push coming up. Mainly because, like what you said, I think a lot of Lakers fans got a bad taste in their mouth from that kind of botched rebuild headed by Magic. But also, like, there was a huge stigma about Magic when he left in the 80s for, like, all of the misinformation about AIDS that was going around at the time. So I think his all-time portfolio and just, like, general word of mouth got suppressed a lot. And when you look at Magic, it's like, wow, he had such a short career, won 5 championships, was immediately one of the top 10 players in the league.
First year in the league.
Like, when does that happen? Fucking never.
Yeah, it's weird too, because even a guy like Larry Bird is just like freaking awesome, and it's like, oh, Larry Bird threw out his back cleaning his driveway.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't have athletes like that anymore.
Well, just because there's more insulation for them,
Yeah.
the travel is different. Like, that's why I think it's so hard. You have to compare when you're talking about all time. you have to compare them first against the people in their era, and then you take the awards and the accomplishments from there, and you can suss it out after. But it's tough. Also, it's like Larry Bird had freaking the best GM of all time.
Oh yeah, Larry Bird played on like the most stacked Celtics
like
team.
such stacked teams. So it's like, and when you're looking at all time things, it's like it's probably easier to compare Larry Bird and Steph Curry than it would be to compare Larry Bird and like fucking Tracy McGrady. It like obviously I'm always gonna say Larry Bird is the better all time player than Tracy McGrady, for a huge reason of just what he was able to accomplish. But it's like, you put Tracy McGrady in Larry Bird's place, I don't know what happens, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's the all-time discourse.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this for days.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people would want us to do like our top 10 all-time list, but like I don't know.
Summertime.
I just wouldn't want to be honest.
Yeah.
I think like the big thing for me as someone who plays basketball too is like people so underestimate how much the rules impact the way the game is played, but not just that, the footwear. Mm-hmm. Like guys are playing in footwear in the 80s and 70s where like you cannot make these crazy sharp cuts that we can make today as guard players that like. So it's like people are like, oh, these guys couldn't dribble, they couldn't cut. It's like, well, one, they'd probably roll their fucking Achilles, and two, they'd get called for a travel. So like, I don't think it's that they weren't capable of doing it, it's that they weren't allowed to.
Yeah, well, and the training wasn't there, the information wasn't there. Like nowadays, even if you're not someone of great means that can afford to have great trainers from the time you're freaking 8 years old, you still have the internet.
Yeah.
The internet is something that is relatively new, has so much information.
Yeah, you can right now type in Kyrie Irving handles workout and get a 20-minute video that breaks down how to do a really solid workout on your handles.
Yeah,
Like,
and these other guys just had to create it. They were going off the people that they saw in pickup. Like that is so much harder to like mold a great, super effective game out of than, and let alone watching the NBA. Like you could see maybe even up to like the late 80s, early 90s, you could barely watch basketball at all. If you miss the game, you're never going to catch that game ever. There's no way you can see that.
No, for real. I think like, it's so frustrating because basketball is this issue where either people are like overly dismissive of what happened in the past or they're like over glorifying it. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, Shaquille O'Neal was so unstoppable. You don't understand. You didn't watch him play. I'm like, sorry, did Shaquille O'Neal go 82-0 every fucking game? No, he didn't. In fact, I don't think he hit 60 wins that many times in his career.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
you're always going to be biased for the people that you witnessed, but also people don't want to go back and do the homework. Yeah. You know, that's the cool thing about now is like so much of that content is there for you to witness and you to suss out. Like even back then, people couldn't look at stats, you know? And a lot of people don't look at stats, even historical stats to compare. It's all just feeling and memories and, you know.
Yeah. We've gone way off course. So who's your award for the greatest player of all time?
I mean, I got Jordan right now.
I've got post 24 Olympics Jokic, but
yeah. Literally,
I actually
you could say that.
I have December 2023 Joel Embiid as my GOAT.
There you go. There you go. If you extrapolate that over
to a career,
over a 15-year career, nobody
he would have
even
scored
touches
50,000
it. Yeah, who would have won 25 championships.
All right, we'll catch you guys on Thursday for our first team ballots. Peace.